Hello, this is Crystal Racing, here to report on a crazy ending to the 2021 Formula 1 season here at Abu Dhabi. It was a day of many monumental moments. Kimi Raikkonen's final Formula 1 race, Antonio Giovinazzi's probable final Formula 1 race, Lance Stroll's 100th Formula 1 race, Honda's last F1 race until, of course, they might decide to come back maybe in about 5 or 10 years' time. Carlos Sainz got a podium, but of course, Carlos Sainz always gets missed by the camera somehow. Bottas' last race for Mercedes, George Russell's final race for Williams, and many other stuff that I can't really remember. But I will say one thing though. If Max Verstappen remains world champion after all the Court of Appeal judgments and everything that goes on, if the verdict at whatever the sporting FIA Court of Arbitration decides that Max Verstappen is indeed the real Formula 1 world champion of 2021, that means that Michael Schumacher's record of 5 consecutive world championships between 2000 and 2004 will remain intact. And frankly, if Mercedes cannot get this overturned, where I think, frankly, the only way they can overturn it by saying that the final lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was invalid, I don't think anyone will ever match Michael Schumacher's record of 5 consecutive world championships ever, because, I know Michael Schumacher's not really the point of topic today, but usually I'd be doing a video where I'd be talking about my scores out of 10 for every driver today, but that's probably a bit inappropriate. I think what happened between Max Verstappen and Hamilton in the championship fight is more relevant. Of course, at the start of the race, Nikita Mazepin tested positive for the virus, and therefore he was forced to step down and miss the race. And he will not be getting rejected this season, despite his awful behaviour on and off track, because the sport governing body have well and truly outboxed him in terms of that respect, because, start of the race, Lewis Hamilton took the lead, despite, of course, Max Verstappen taking pole position. Max Verstappen tried to overtake Lewis Hamilton halfway through the first lap, pushed him wide, and then Lewis Hamilton got a shortcut. A lot of people believe that Lewis Hamilton should have given the place back, but Max Verstappen was culpable in pushing Lewis wide. After that, Lewis Hamilton pulled out a margin on Verstappen. And then, of course, when Lewis Hamilton emerged from his pit stops, Sergio Perez spent a few laps holding Lewis up, which helped Max Verstappen somewhat. And, of course, Max Verstappen returned the favour on the radio by saying, "Thank you, sir, but give my thank you to Sergio. He is an absolute legend." Good wingman work there from Perez today, because, of course, Bottas was totally anonymous in his final race for Mercedes. But then, of course, Bottas does tend to be anonymous an awful lot of the time, really. In general, really. It's not really any sort of thing that's particularly weird or peculiar. Bottas is just average. That's all I can say. Of course, as the race progressed, both Alfa Romeos retired. Of course, Kimi Raikkonen retired with a brake failure. Of course, he crashed out, and then he stumbled back to the pits, realising his brakes had gone, and very sad end, really. I mean, it was a poor race weekend for Kimi, but he's not bothered anymore. And I think with the sort of BS that now goes on in Formula 1, I can't blame him for not even being bothered now, because, and yes, I know he got driver of the day, but it's not like he would have said anything in his driver of the day interview or anything. I think he did speak to Sky Sports and Seymour F1 afterwards, but, I think Kimi's just glad to be done and over with. And all the best for the future, Kimi. You're an absolute legend. I love you so much. His teammate Antonio Giovinazzi retired with, was it a suspension problem or something? I don't even know what it was. But Alfa Romeo will finish ninth in the Constructors' Championship, and they deserve it. They really are a joke of a team now. And good luck to Valtteri Bottas and Guanyu Zhou, because they're going to be having to deal with Alfa Romeo's shenanigans next year. I don't know whether they're going to be fully sane or not after next year, but hey, George Russell retired because he also had car problems, a sad end to his Williams career, but of course I think he'll be looking forward to joining Mercedes next year, where of course he will be in the forefront of the headlines a lot next year. I can guarantee you that. But of course, Nick, there is one man though. And what's his name now? I keep forgetting. Is it Nicholas Glock? No. There's Timo Latifi, isn't it? Yeah. No, it's Timo Werner. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Nicholas Latifi then crashed out on lap 53, bringing out the safety car. Now, of course, before then, of course, there was a virtual safety car for Giovinazzi's parked Alfa Romeo, which gave Verstappen a free pit stop. Hamilton was sort of frustrated, thinking that it might be a problem for him. Even so, in between the virtual safety car and the actual safety car, Max Verstappen wasn't actually taking enough time out of Lewis in order to close the gap down and have an actual proper final lap showdown. But because of Latifi's crash, they had no choice but to bring the real safety car out, sponsored by Aston Martin, of course. And then, of course, we all had the drama over what was going on in the safety car and what the hell were the lap cars supposed to do. And I have it right here, some of the details from the FIA sporting regulations. Article 39.12. If the clerk of the course considers it safe to do so, and the message, quote, capitals, lap cars may now overtake, has been sent to all teams via the official messaging system. Any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. This will only apply to cars that were lapped at the time they crossed the line at the end of the lap, during which they crossed the first safety car line for the second time after the safety car was deployed. Having overtaken the cars on the lead lap and the safety car, these cars should then proceed around the track at an appropriate speed without overtaking, and make every effort to take up position at the back of the line behind the safety car whilst they are overtaking. And in order to ensure this may be carried out safely, the cars on the lead lap must always stay on the racing line unless deviating from it is unavoidable. Unless the clerk of the course considers the presence of the safety car is unnecessary, once the last lap car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. If the clerk of the course considers track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, the message, quote, capitals, overtaking will not be permitted, will be sent to all teams via the official messaging system. And of course, I've also got another piece of the FIA regulations, Article 48.12. If the clerk of the course considers it safe to do so, the message, lap cars may now overtake, has been sent to all competitors via the official messaging system. All cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. This will only apply to cars that were lapped at the time they crossed the line at the end of the lap, during which they crossed the first safety car line for the second time after the safety car was deployed. Having overtaken the cars on the lead lap and the safety car, these cars should then proceed around the track at an appropriate speed without overtaking, and make every effort to take up position at the back of the line of cars behind the safety car whilst they are overtaking. And in order to ensure this may be carried out safely, the cars on the lead lap must always stay on the racing line unless deviating from it is unavoidable. Unless the clerk of the course considers the presence of the safety car is still necessary, once the last lap car has passed, the leader of the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. If the clerk of the course considers track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, the message, overtaking will not be permitted, will be sent out to all competitors via the official messaging system. Hang on, sorry, I actually read that out twice. Why the hell is... Okay, I'm sorry about that. Looks like I actually read the same thing out, but apparently, what's it? 48 Okay, I'm sorry. But anyway, as it turns out to be, I've read out twice, but for some reason it was listed 39 and 48. Well, I think as we all know, what really happened was that um there were 8 lap cars, of course, but only 5 of those lap cars actually overtook Lewis Hamilton and the safety car. There were 8 cars in total, and just as those 5 cars had successfully overtaken the safety car, Lewis Hamilton, then Michael Masi decided to proceed with racing. And of course, those lap cars were still unlapping themselves, and they were racing around the circuit in order to make their way back up to the pack. Now, under normal safety car circumstances, the safety car would stay out, would remain out on track to wait for all those lap cars to get back to the end of the train of cars. But as we all saw, those 5 cars just were still trying to catch up to the back of the pack when the safety car withdrew. That is really questionable. I'm sorry. The FIA and Michael Masi deserve not only rejected the race for a second race running, they deserve rejected the season. Their decisions throughout this entire season have been an absolute farce. This focus on entertainment is really now going too far. I get it. We've had 7, technically we've now got, 8 consecutive Mercedes World Championships since, of course, Red Bull lost the Constructors World Championship. Not that anyone cares really, but as, of course, in the public eye, of course, it's 7 consecutive Mercedes Drivers World Championships, if you, of course, include Rosberg's win back in 2016. It's really kind of worrying. I mean, I get it, last year we were all complaining F1 was boring, and I was one of them. I was really boring, but the moment the sport actually gets a blockbuster season, the FIA just don't know what to do. It's absolutely horrifying, and in a sense, I do kind of seriously miss Charlie Whiting, because Michael Masi is probably going to get sacked at some point. Not tomorrow, not next week, but he'll probably be sacked just before the start of next season. I mean, they will not put out a statement saying Michael Masi was sacked for his conduct in the championship finale. They'll just say he did something really stupid, like, oh, we called John Todd a French so-and-so or something awful. Just pretend that he was being racist or something stupid. But in reality, we all know he'll be getting sacked for what actually happened today, because today was a total mess. Oh, jeez. I don't know anymore. I mean, if you want to go and read the FIA regulations, just go on the FIA website. I don't want to read out anymore. But I have to say, though, even if you think Max Verstappen won the championship fairly, it's a complete farce. It's made us all question whether this sport is really what actually happens on track is actually real. It's just sad. It's a real sad shame. I suppose, gotta say it, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have both been absolutely 10 out of 10 throughout this season, and I've actually got it listed down in the race rankings for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in my crystal score. They're both Max and Lewis have got 10 out of 10, but because I don't really want to say anything at this point. The driver rankings don't really make any sense, because of course the whole kerfuffle meant Sainz got up to 3rd. Perez retired? Why did he retire? I'll never know why. Just weird, really. I'm not even sure. I mean, maybe it could be something to do with a lap call situation. It does seem a bit suspicious, because, when Perez went on the radio, they just said, Perez, we have to retire the car. And Perez was like, okay. But he didn't say any more. And his engineer didn't say any more than that. I think, Perez tacitly knew that his retirement must have been tactical, because, Perez's car had absolutely no problems up to, the 53 lap point, the lap 53 point, running as smooth as clockwork. There wasn't any sort of weird sounds coming out of the Red Bull during the safety car period. We didn't hear any complaints from Perez over the radio that his car was like clunking or feeling funny or anything like that. It was literally like they said, the way they said it, it was like a team order. And I think he must have been forced to withdraw because, of course, Red Bull clearly wanted Perez not to get in the way of any lap cars unlapping themselves. I think, and in case, Perez accidentally, hits Max at a restart or anything like that, I think they just wanted to clear him. And the fact that, of course, I think Red Bull knew that they were going to lose the Constructors' Championship. There was absolutely no point having Perez there. I think it was just to make sure that he was guaranteed not to be in the way of something. I don't know, but that's not the most important point. Bottas finished 6th. I mean, but he wasn't even in the running anyway. I don't know what to say at this point. It's so hard to think. My brain is scrambled. I am absolutely in pieces, of course. Mercedes, unsurprisingly, have gone to the FIA and have launched a protest. Of course, Red Bull have gone to the stewards. I mean, of course, as I'm doing this video, we are literally, they are still in discussions at the stewards' office. We are not going to hear the end of this now, of course. I'm looking at Twitter and it's just loads of pictures of Mercedes and Red Bull going back and forth to the stewards. I don't even know. Apparently from this message, of course, Formula 1, of course, Mercedes are protesting against the classification established at the end of the competition relating to alleged breaches of Articles 48.8 and 48.12. I know I accidentally read out the same thing twice. I think what I read out the first time was actually an old piece of sporting regulations because, of course, the FIA changes the order of all the stuff they write out every year. Oh, not very organised there. I don't know, man. I think, obviously, right now, I think most of you want me to sum up the championship now. As you all know, of course, I'm a massive Kimi Raikkonen fan, but I think because of what's happened today, I will do an entirely separate video for Kimi Raikkonen and him alone, and of course Giovinazzi, because I think this video is going to start getting very confusing to watch if I start talking about Kimi too much. Max Verstappen, after Austria, was leading the championship at 35 points. Arguably, what happened at Silverstone, Max Verstappen, having such a big points gap, probably should have let Lewis pass to win the race at Cops. I know it's not a part of Max Verstappen's psyche just to let someone pass so easily, but maybe if he had just accepted second place that day, he would have got 18 points. Lewis would have won the race, but instead of having his championship margin cut down to just 9 points, it would have only been cut down to 27 points. And what would have happened today would have never happened if Max Verstappen, but of course I suppose you've got to realise, of course, Max Verstappen is only 24 years old and he doesn't have like decades upon decades of experience like someone like Kimi Raikkonen or Fernando Alonso. I mean, if they were in his position, I think they would have just let him past. And if they still were capable of being really ultra fast like they were in the mid-2000s, I mean, they probably would have won the championship in a way cleaner manner, and Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes would have had no way of complaining. It would have been literally just men shouting at the clouds type of complaining. It would have been ridiculous, but because of what happened today, we are not going to hear the end of this for the next 6 weeks. And in many ways, it's a very unsatisfactory ending to the season. Yes, we will be talking about this race for many years to come. But it'd be because of what a mess it was. I suppose, the conspiracy theories in me thinks Liberty Media did get their entertainment style ending. And sort of got a replay of what has happened in the past with, 2008 Brazil, 1997 Jerez. I mean, if there's one parallel you can make to 2008 Brazil, I mean, Latifi crashed out. I mean, in many ways, yeah, he's kind of will be remembered as a Timo Glock, but in truth, though, he will not be remembered. I don't think whoever will be angry with him, most likely Lewis Hamilton fans, will blame Latifi. I think the rightful target they'll be blaming will be Michael Masi. And I think, thankfully, most Lewis Hamilton fans are sane enough to realise that it's actually Michael Masi, because, let's be honest, I know, unless you really do think Latifi got paid a stash of cash by Red Bull to crash out when he did, possibly, but then you have to realise his Williams team used Mercedes engine. And as a customer team, I don't think you want to be out there upsetting the people who supply you your engines. I mean, anyone who comes out with that conspiracy theory that Latifi deliberately crashed out in order to, give Max Verstappen one last shot at winning the title is an idiot. There's just no way. Like, although, of course, I mean, the conspiracy theories might start ringing again if AlphaTauri, for some bizarre reason, ever decide to employ Latifi, but that's about as good as never happening, really, because, of course, Latifi is just a pay driver. As for the other drivers, I'm looking at all the scores, really, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It was all about just 2 drivers today. I don't know what else to say. Please comment down below. If you're a Lewis fan who thinks you cheated, I kind of understand to some extent. I kind of do sympathise for you. And if you're a Max Verstappen fan who thinks that what happened was absolutely fair, I suppose you're right as well, because, I mean, Michael Masi arguably should have told all the lap cars to lap themselves as soon as possible. Once they reached the safety car, they should have been all told to get past. He should have made a quick, swift decision. Right lap cars, get out of the way now, immediately, quickly. But of course, Michael Masi, of course, he hesitated, he diverted, he didn't know what to do. I mean, on the radio, he was saying to Christian Horner, oh no, we can't let lap cars through because, we're cleaning up the debris from Latifi's crash. But then he goes on the radio to Toto Wolff saying, oh yeah, we are now going to let lap cars through. And then when it turns out to be only 5.8 lap cars went through, Wolff rightly criticises Masi on the radio, but then Masi comes out the most idiotic and most unprofessional response I have ever heard from a sporting referee, umpire, steward, you can't name it what you want. It's called motor racing. Oh man, are you now just some idiot on Twitter now? I mean, that's what it is. What sort of language is that? I mean, seriously. But then of course I did have my suspicions, last week when, Michael Masi said to the FI, said to Christian Horner or Red Bull saying, well, we can make an offer, whether Max Verstappen can start first, but of course he'll have to take a penalty, or whether he can drop all the way down to third behind Ocon and Hamilton for the restart. It's all too cavalier from Michael Masi. He will be losing his job at some point, whether it's tomorrow, next week, or next year. Michael Masi will forever be remembered as a very controversial character in Formula One. No matter, even if he does keep his job, and no matter how well he can officiate a Formula One race, everyone will remember him for what his conduct today and his conduct at Saudi Arabia last week. It's a complete farce. In many ways, Michael Masi has turned into a Mike Dean. He really is now the Mike Dean of Formula One. And I think the FIA and Liberty Media will have to find a way of removing him and sacking him. I think it's going to be a very awkward... The upcoming winter is just going to be full of arguments over what the hell is going on in Formula 1 and all that, and it's going to be quite ugly. It's just going to be so ugly, and, it's sad for me because this has completely overshadowed Kimi Raikkonen's farewell, but of course, knowing Kimi Raikkonen, he's probably the happiest person in the paddock, knowing that barely anyone is actually talking about his farewell and the fact it's his last race, because I know Kimi Raikkonen's the type of bloke who wants to go out, walk through the back door and never appear again. I suppose he's got the farewell he actually really wanted, retiring early in the race, so that he doesn't have to do so many interviews. He doesn't have loads of fans screaming at him, Kimi, I love you so much. Yeah, I think it's time, for Kimi Raikkonen to retire in peace, and... I feel like if Formula 1 carries on like this, I might end up retiring from watching Formula 1 altogether, because this is just silly. This is just absolutely farcical. it almost feels like Formula One is well and truly now turning into a Netflix drama. And look, I actually don't think this is an agenda against Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. I just think Formula One and Liberty Media are just probably a bit too preoccupied with trying to provide entertainment at all costs. It's turning, it's kind of turning into sort of a Formula NASCAR-ish type of series now, or a European IndyCar, where it's more about entertainment and as many clickbait articles, just keeping the Formula One name in the headlines, even if it's for all the wrong reasons. I've been talking for 25 minutes and I think I've had enough. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to Crystal Racing, and I'll see you again very soon. And of course, not only will there be a Kimi Raikkonen tribute video, there'll be an Antonio Giovinazzi tribute video, and there will be the end of season driver ranking awards, who's the worst driver and who's the best driver. But of course, I will also be doing a video. I might even do a video about the FIA if I ever have time. See you again.